This is an interview with Duane Peterson. He was born on March 31st, 1968. He served in the U.S. Army but was not in any war. He was the first, his highest rank was the first lieutenant. Uh, this was recorded on May 24th, 2017 in Alto, Michigan. Um, the interviewer's name is Ben Sloma, and the veteran is my neighbor. This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress. Okay, so we're gonna start off with like where and when you were born, and then like what you were doing before you entered.
Sure.
Military service.
Sure. Was born in Flint, Michigan, and I had done a year of college in Michigan State University, and I spent the summer after that first year of college in California on a summer project with something called Campus Crusade for Christ. I think they go by Crew now. And came back, and in summer, I kind of had a conversation with my dad that finances for the family, kind of as a whole, would preclude them from really paying for much of college. So, I had to think about a solution to pay for college, wanted to avoid loans. So I enlisted. It actually back then it was the National Guard that I went into. All total, I've probably spent about a year and a half on active duty, but most of that was for training. So yeah, year of college, year in California, or just a summer in California, and then headed off to basic training. So I was enlisted for 3 years before I became an officer.
So you just volunteered, right?
Yep, was not drafted or anything.
Okay. And then, so like, why did you choose the National Guard or the Army or whatever you chose?
I had looked at a couple different options of service. I had talked to both the Air Force and the Navy, and eyesight issues over contacts, glasses, and I thought about. I was given an opportunity to be a navigator, front seat in a fighter jet, and that required a 4-year commitment at the end of that, which at that time I wasn't certain I wanted to do that, but yet still wanted to pursue an opportunity to have some funding for college. That was the original intention. But that being said, it was a pretty definite ethic back in the day, definitely in my family context, that if you could serve your country, that was an honorable thing to do. Okay. So to directly answer the question, it was really the most efficient way in my mind for me to get back to college, because I only did I think it was 9 months or total. It was went to basic training, then I went to my job school, and then I was right back in college. So I only missed a little less than a year of college really.
Okay.
So and then came back to college, and then I was in the National Guard.
So like, where did you go? Like, did you go any abroad, or did you just stay in the U.S.?
Just stay in the U.S. And for some reason they kept sending me to Alabama. I went to a base that's now closed. It's Fort McClellan, Alabama. It used to be home of the chemical school and the NP school, but I went there for basic training. And then I went to Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is in southern Alabama. I was a helicopter mechanic / crew chief, and I went for that school. And then I came back, and there's an air Air National Guard. Basically, it was a Army Air Aviation facility in Grand Ledge, Michigan, and I did my my once a month trainings there. Did my time up at Camp Grayling, Michigan, mostly where we went. So I did that for 3 years or so, and then commanding officer came to me and said, you've got to go to either platoon leader. It's called back then. It's called PLDC, platoon leader development course, like a squad leader, platoon sergeant path, or you can go to officer candidate school. So I went to officers candidate school, and back then that was that lasted a year and a half. It's down in Battle Creek area, and that was the most interesting year and a half of my life. So one weekend a month, you would go down, and their entire goal was to get you to quit. Graduated class number 33. We started with 88 people, and it's a rough program, and only 33 of us actually ended up graduating. So easy to remember those numbers because there was two sets of 33 and then 88. But so I did that for a year and a half, and then after that, they sent me back to Fort McClellan, Alabama for chemical officer, what they call it, chemical officer basic course. I think that was like 6 months back then. Basically learning chem, biological, nuclear, and then another thing we did is like battlefield smoke, basically visual obscurant. So we had these gigantic smoke generators that dumped out gobs of smoke. And then the other thing we did a little bit was we did training on flame field expedients, basically just light stuff on fire to keep the bad guy away. Mm-hmm. So, but other than that, I had a few stints where I kind of extended training kind of thing, but it was just all local in the U.S. So, but yeah, never made it overseas. Mm. Sorry, dude. Nothing too exciting. So yeah. So no action or anything. Nope. Like that. Other than training. Everything was just training. Okay. I was usually involved. The units that I was involved in was Army Aviation. So we had, back then we had the Cobra, the AH-1. That stands for Attack Helicopter 1. That was like a Vietnam era helicopter gunship. Towards the tail end, we started to see the AH-64, which is the Apache. So those are pretty familiar to people these days. But yeah, so we have to do some cool training, some joint exercise trainings with the Air Force and with that, and with some artillery units. But sorry, dude, nothing too exciting in that regard. So did you have any kind of friendships? Did you form any friends? Oh yeah. It's to kind of get through some of those experiences, some of the just whatever you do, it's you kind of go shared experience in getting through. I especially think about like officers candidate school. With starting with 88 and seeing 33 of us graduate. It's like every month, somebody would drop, and you develop relationships with those people. So I fear the next question. I fear you're going to ask me, am I still friends with any of them today? So that's going to come up. Yeah. But so did you stay in touch with friends and family back home, or? Yeah. I mean, again, it was just during training times. When I was like in Alabama or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So post. You're pretty busy, so it was the occasional postcard, email. Regular mail. This is before email. Yeah. So I was in from 1987 to 1997, so like 11 years. So yeah, that's before email. Okay. a little bit.
So like, how did you get home? Did you like drive, or was there a plane, or what?
You know, when they send you off to trainings when you're enlisted, at least the lower ranks, they pay to fly you everywhere. And then once I became an officer, you know, whenever I would train, I could usually drive, so I had a car.
Okay.
So, but yeah, bus on a few occasions.
Yeah.
So
Was there any kind of readjustment to civilian life? Did you?
yeah, yeah, there was. I mean, your brain is kind of rewired. You know, a lot of us grow up with, you know, parents that teach us self-discipline and responsibility and order, you know, and that kind of thing. But the military exponentially expands that, you know. To this day, I still have to remind myself that I'm not in the military. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I have a wife and 3 daughters, and we'll say that we're going to leave for an event at, you know, 10 in the morning. And that means you are ready to go. You're in the, you know, you're in the personnel carrier, if you will, you know,
Yeah.
before 10, ready to go with all your stuff, you know, and yeah, you know, civilian world, you know, the precision, the paying attention to detail, the use of checklists is not used too much, you know, at least in the home life, and even in the workplace, you know, there's some of it, but yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny because I've had a few situations where I've talked to people, and you know, somebody who's recently gotten in the military, and you tell them your first name, but all they want to do is call you sir. You know,
Yeah.
again, I get it, I understand it. You know, yeah. There's another element too where the what you're training for in the military, what you're doing in the military. You had this deep sense of purpose, but it's beyond that. It's an important purpose, you know, and that you know, civilian life in a lot of regards kind of is a bit more subdued than that, you know.
Yeah.
So I, you know, I'm talking, you know, a lot of guys who've had a hard time adjusting because they feel like life had more meaning for them when they were in the military. You know, so there can be some adjustments there.
Yeah.
You know, other guys go through, you know, who have been in combat. You know, I know a couple who've gone through, you know, going through PTSD, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah. Yeah. Support those guys, man.
So, have you stayed in contact with those friends that you met in the service?
You know, some of them, you know, it just kind of over time, it's kind of trickled. So, you know, I had a couple buddies. Yeah, one of them's a cop down in Atlanta now. Two of them are cops in New York City. But yeah, I haven't really stayed in contact with them. You know, I've been out for 20 years now, and haven't really talked to them much in the last 10. So, kind of, I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, all of us families, you know. So, yeah. Yep.
And then, so like, how do you think that your training and being in the military just kind of affected your life in general? Like, how is that?
You know, you do things in the military that are challenging, are stretching, are pushing, and you know, and you know, I think it kind of can provide a context of confidence that, well, I did this, so therefore I can step out into the rest of the world and do you know, do stuff also. I remember, you know, I remember sometime, and it was while I was in the context of being in the military, and I was getting ready to do something, and my parents expressed concern. I'm like, look, you know, I've been responsible for making sure my platoon of guys, 30, almost 30 guys, makes it to a handful of destinations, accomplishes a handful of tasks with $1 million worth of equipment, and yeah, I think I can get myself in my car, you know, so, somewhere, stuff like that. It's just kind of a funny story, but I understand, you know, my parents understand that, but yeah, a sense of confidence definitely can come from the experience. I would say another thing that should come with it, but I think a lot of guys can kind of lose is the sense of needing a team to accomplish a task. You know, this is America, land of the independent, land of the self-reliant, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. But I mean, in the military, we're very much taught that that success only comes from teamwork, and that's a good thing to remember that I think a lot of us forget. So, but did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, anything else you really want to talk about? Any stories? Any?
So, a lot. I mean, my experience, and I want to be respectful to the guys that have seen and had to do, difficult things, beyond difficult things. My experience, was one of training largely, and everybody that's been in the military, they hate war, but yet they want to go sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just strange reality you live in. In kind of two places. It's like you feel obligated to go. So I would say that one thing I would say is that I have a regret of not having spent time in a combat zone. You just that's what you train for. That's what you want to do. You want to see it put to use. You want to play the role that you were designed, and trained to play. But my experiences are largely, my memories are largely good. Some of them are downright hilarious, funny, just stuff that happened. Yeah, stuff, people getting in trouble because there was stupid stuff, and myself included in that a little bit. But yeah, it's like one of my first jobs as a new lieutenant. We were going on this training exercise, and we had to drive both weapons and munition to this place, because and I was responsible for the convoy, and the guy who's driving the truck, he's like, okay, which way are we supposed to go? And I'm looking at the directions in the map, and I'm like, why do we have to go? This is like the stupidest way to go, right? It was like way out of our way and all this kind of stuff, and we get there, and we're like way early because I took like a massive shortcut, and my company commander's like, how are you here so soon? I'm like, well, the way you gave us to go was like really long, I'm like, so I just took some shortcuts. He's like, you can't do that. We have to officially notify like the state police of any state we go through that we've got weapons and live munition and we're always going to be on this route because they have to know where we are at all times. Like he says, we have to even tell them at such and such a time, this is where we'll likely be, you know? So if we're hijacked, you know, literally we could be hijacked and something stolen, or, you know, so that, yeah, it was just stuff like that, you know, just, yeah, most of my stories are stories about getting in trouble. So, but yeah. Other stories. Yeah, you know, definitely, definitely saw some other stuff. It's like, you know, young soldiers going in who kind of got away from home for the first time, who they got into trouble that wasn't comical. They got into trouble that was serious. You know, some drug use. You know, stuff like that. Um, you know, saw some guys get busted. You know, I actually had a platoon sergeant. He was, you know, in a unit that I was in, that he tested positive for, I don't know what it was, but he got his career was over, you know, because of that. So, you know, so it's you see those kind of components, and yeah, um, yeah, yeah. You want to be gracious, but you want to encourage people to choose a straight and narrow path too. So, um, I personally think everyone should have to spend some time in the military. You know, you know, some countries have, you know, a mandatory conscription. You know, they have to spend, like I know Germany, Israel, you have to spend, I think, you know, 2, 3 years in. Um, and for people that are, you know, really kind of conscientious objectors, they'll have another duty to do. You know, if it's something akin to the Peace Corps, like a domestic Peace Corps, and yeah, I think everyone should have to do some kind of service to their country. Um, you know, I think it kind of, you know, it's good for the country, it's good for the person, you know, that kind of thing. So, so I should ask you, are you going to sign up for a couple of years as a way to pay for college? But,
I don't know. I might. Yeah. I've definitely considered it, but
yeah,
I don't know. So
yeah, yeah. If you are, I mean, there's benefits to the Army, but if you have the grades, um, you know, you can do some different kind of things in the Navy and in the Air Force. You know, let's not forget the Marines. You know, those that argue that they're the best branch. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions, man?
no.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.